Tuesday afternoon to you. Hope you're having great days. Thanks for joining Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We're excited as cleveland.com plain dealer columnist Terry Pluto will join us to talk Browns and a little bit of Indians. A little bit later, Mandy Bell from Indians.com will be along to talk some Indians as well. Kevin Stefanski, Browns head coach, met with the media, and it was abundantly clear that he liked Sheldon Richardson a lot, but letting him go was a tough decision based on the salary cap.
I would tell you, I think I mentioned to you last time we spoke, as a coach, I want to keep everybody. And there's some salary cap constraints that I think everybody understands, and they're hard decisions. And Sheldon in particular played really productive football for us, and he played through injuries, and he took great pride in getting to the playoffs for the first time in his career. So he was a big part of that. I hope there's a scenario, Nate, like you mentioned, but those are the hard decisions that are made. But I really want to point out that Sheldon was such a big part of what we did last year.
Kevin Stefanski hoping that the Browns can re-sign Sheldon Richardson is the scenario he was mentioning. Let's welcome in Terry Pluto, columnist from cleveland.com, as well as a plain dealer. Terry, as always, appreciate the time. What about the Sheldon Richardson, letting him go? Is that just a sign of a team that has kind of reached that level of roster construction?
Well, the one thing that allows people in Cleveland to have confidence and thinks that the Browns could do something is that they have a good – NFL has a real salary cap, and it's a tight one. It forces you to make a decision. Okay, say, all right, if you want Jadeveon Clowney, you're going to have to probably clear some room for him. And they made the decision that it was going to be Richardson. By the way, if I could be wrong, underline almost everything with that, but I could be wrong. But had the Browns been able to get Richardson to rework his $13 million salary, it would have been done already. This way, I guess they could say, all right, go on the open market. If you don't get a very good offer, maybe we'll take you back. But they believe that they could find these tackles, whether it's Jordan Elliott on the roster now, that they could play Clowney inside some. And, they're talking about just having unbalanced fronts. It's not going to be just this regular 4-3 front, that 4-3 defense that you see. Because remember, they like safeties, they like cornerbacks, they like defensive ends, linebackers and defensive tackles, not so much.
Is that an analytics-driven, roster construction as far as positional value type of thing?
Yeah, and they would also argue, and I think there's some truth to that the way the game's played now with so much passing, and it isn't that those guys in the middle of the field just are not as important, especially when you can get these safeties now who are, really good at tackling, almost can play like linebackers. So, and then in the meantime, you get these big guys in the middle of your line, you think that kind of, clog things up. And that's the idea. I liked Richardson a lot. He was durable. And, when you look at some of the other stuff, Clowney, who they traded him off for, only played 8 games last season.
Okay, so Kevin Stefanski also gave everyone an injury update on Odell Beckham Jr., Grant Delpit, and Greedy Williams. Let's listen to Kevin Stefanski addressing the media about the injured Browns players.
Yeah, he's progressing very well. He's trending in the right direction, really. Odell and Grant Delpit and Greedy, I think they're all on track. I don't know the exact date that is for all those guys, but really like how they're progressing. In particular, Greedy continues to get good news, and I'm just so happy for the kid. He just battled his butt off in the rehab room for months and had a great attitude throughout. And I just really, really happy for him as he keeps getting better and better. And he's got ways to go, but he's trending in the right direction.
So, Terry, let me ask you this. So we've talked about the positional value on defense. Is there any scenario where you see that you can have a $14 million and a $15 million wide receiver on this roster after this year moving forward?
Not when you don't have your quarterback signed. But let's first of all, David, you've been around. I have. Have you ever heard a coach this time of year say, Well, that rehab is really going bad with the guy. I think his arm's going to fall off. So they always say that because, first of all, it's April. Now they may not even have mini camp, so we're not even going to get a look at these guys till August or whatever anyway. Let's break them down to 3 injuries. Number one, Delpit's a rookie coming off an Achilles. As somebody who's completely shattered one Achilles and partially torn the other, I could tell you it's a difficult injury to come back, but you want to do it when you're younger. And the odds are that Delpit can come back. Secondly, Greedy Williams' problem with his shoulder, with nerves, is a strange injury. It's strange. He's fine now, but think about how you use your shoulders when you tackle on that. They're going to say all the right things, but my goodness, it was nerve issues and that kind of stuff. So there's concern. And finally, with Odell, he's missed 42% of the games in the last 4 years. 42% of the games in the last 4 years. He has had ankle surgery. He has had major knee surgery. He has had hernia surgery, and probably something else that I can't remember. So, when people talk about trading him, and that's, first of all, if you're a GM somewhere else, how much would you give up for that guy? And secondly, what are the odds of him being healthy all this year, much less projecting into the future? So, if he's around this year, I think it's one and done. And meanwhile, if you pick between Landry and Odell, that's easy. Landry never misses games.
When you look at what's coming as far as the salary cap goes, the TV money will kick in at kind of a nice time for the Browns because you got Mayfield, you got Chubb, you got to take care of potentially Wyatt Teller.
Denzel Ward. And Wyatt Teller, I know they want to do something with. There's probably a couple other guys that I'm not thinking of at the moment, but you're correct. But nonetheless, the salary cap forces teams to cut good players at times, and you should be glad about that. Why it's painful now, but that's why in the NFL, Green Bay could win, Cleveland can win, Pittsburgh could win. It isn't like baseball at all. And what it does is it puts a premium on a smart front office. If you got a smart front office who works together with the coaching staff, you can consistently compete in the NFL. In other words, there's no excuse about, the Cowboys spend 3 times as much as we do. No, basically the Cowboys can't get anything right now. So I like it. I like the NFL forces teams to do this, and then we'll see who's got the better front office.
You've seen a number of front offices. How impressed are you? And I know it's only 2 years, but there seems to be, they call it alignment. It just seems like these people understand what they want. There's a plan. They're executing the plan, and everybody's in step with the plan, which has been very welcome from what has been out there in the recent regimes.
Well, the Haslams finally turned it over to Paul DePodesta, and he brought in guys who see the game his way. And Barry had worked here before with DePodesta, and also Stefanski, who I'd interviewed before, and that's who DePodesta wanted to hire. He and Barry had a relationship too, and I wrote this story a while ago, but during the 2019 season when Stefanski did not get the job here, and then Barry actually left for a year, went to Philadelphia, they would text periodically, and once in a while even joke about it. It would be fun to work together, not actually thinking it would happen. But in other words, they all had a relationship. That doesn't mean they're buddy, but it does indicate they kind of see stuff the same way. So that's a big deal that helps. And they came in, let's be fair some to John Dorsey. Don Dorsey set them up. You got Baker Mayfield, a good quarterback with a chance to be better than that. Wyatt Teller is somebody that he brought in. And then you look at, you got, like you mentioned, Beckham and you mentioned Odell. And then you look in the backfield, Chubb and Hunt. Dorsey left quite a bit of talent here, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So they didn't have to go spending a bunch of picks on everything except the left tackle. And that allowed them to set it up and go forward.
Terry Pluto and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will get Terry's thoughts on where the Browns go in the draft and how this Browns roster currently constructed. How good is it? Sports4CLE will be back talking Browns with columnist Terry Pluto. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. In a week, in a couple of days, it's time for the NFL draft here in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski this afternoon was asked, does the release of Sheldon Richardson affect where the Browns look with that 26th pick overall?
Yeah, I think for all those positions, Tom, as you look at the draft board, you want to add good players. And I know it's easy to say it's definitely going to be here, definitely going to be there. I think we're looking to add good players to this roster. I know we have multiple picks. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but we have many picks that we're looking to bring in competition at all levels, offense, defense, special teams, because I think that's what makes you better. So every one of those decisions as a roster plays into that, but I know that we feel like we can add good players to the roster throughout, and I would encourage you to ask Andrew about that on Friday.
Andrew Berry will meet with the media Friday to talk about the draft. Let's welcome back in cleveland.com and Plain Dealer columnist Terry Pluto. Terry, where do you think the Browns look at 26 in the draft? Any idea, or can they literally go anywhere at this point?
Well, last year we knew they were going to take a tackle because it was an obvious need. And also you pick in 10th, you realize there are several tackles, and you probably get one of the ones you wanted. I just think they want more speed on defense. That's been the theme since it's been going along. I wouldn't be shocked if they took another safety or cornerback, something like that. It's possible if a defensive tackle falls there, they would take him. Usually if you have a really good defensive end, a pass rusher, he's gone by 26. So, some people talk about moving up, but I would be really surprised if the Browns moved out of 26, or certainly if it was maybe up a couple of notches, but that's not their thing. They don't want to use a lot of draft capital to fight our way up in the draft. That's not how they do it. But remember, fast. They want to be faster, David. That's their big thing.
And do you think have they increased the overall team speed with what they've done in free agency? It seems like they've gotten some guys that are much more athletic.
I mean, that's the goal. Part of the reason they did the Clowney-Richardson trade is one, Clowney's a little cheaper than Richardson. Secondly, he's faster when healthy. Now, he missed 8 games last year. I will say this, over the last 4 years before that, I only missed a total of 9 games. So last year was a bad year. Then early in his career, he had major knee problems. So we'll have to see if he can stay healthy or not. But I was always a little guarded on him because of the durability thing. And when you look at the rest, John Johnson's considered a top-notch safety. They are looked at. They took the Hill kid from Youngstown as a defensive back. He has some speed. And they say this Anthony Walker from the Colts is one of the fastest linebackers in the NFL. So that's what they want to do. I will say this, at least they have an image of what the defense is supposed to look like, and they're trying to draft and acquire players to fit it, as opposed to, it's almost like a crazy quilt design before. Let's just get whatever we can and try to put it together.
When you look at the roster overall, how impressive do you think it is? How much talent is on this roster? relative to where Browns teams have been in the past?
Well, they had a good enough talent last year to win 11 games, and you turn around, and other than Sheldon Richardson, who have they really lost? I mean, Larry Ogunjobi, not much else. So you figure 11 is your base in terms of victories and how they ought to be. Now, it gets really hard when you try to win 12, 13, 14 games. That's a lot to ask and what you do in the playoffs. But that was the good thing about this past season, the 11 wins. And if you go all the way back to 94 when Belichick won the 11 games here, you could look at that roster, see a bunch of old New York Giants guys like Carl Banks and a few others that they had. And it was kind of a roster slapped together for a year or two. It was not something built to last for a few seasons, where I think this one is. That's the big deal. You're not sitting here whether they sign, Baker Mayfield to an extension or whether they sign, Denzel Ward to an extension. All those guys are around for this upcoming year. Nick Chubb. That's a nice position to be in, where you're just not losing much.
What about the job Kevin Stefanski did? Given, some of the immense hurdles that he had, no preseason, no training camp, no OTAs, everything done virtually. Does that make his first year as a head coach even that much more impressive?
Yes, and also if they didn't feel they had to go out and fire main assistants, because that was another thing they used to do every year. One of the coordinators would go, other parts would go, and so you were always having to not only have a new roster of players, but a new roster of assistants. And I mean, to me, the most impressive game was, Stefanski wasn't there for that playoff victory in Pittsburgh, and a couple of the other assistants, including Bill Callahan, weren't there. And they still found a way to win that game. They got out early and hung on with a bunch of different people in roles they hadn't been in all year. It just shows how organized the coaching staff was, and that they were able to assemble a really good coaching staff, in spite of the fact that I have to admit, if I'm a veteran assistant coach and I have other options, and Cleveland is one, I go, do I really want to go there? I might be lucky to last 2 years. So hopefully that's going to change too.
How big of a addition was Bill Callahan? Because that offensive line, I think, kind of set the tone for everything.
It was gigantic. Number one, Callahan had a big say on who are they going to take at left tackle. Wills was Callahan's guy. I could take this guy and move him from right tackle to left tackle. I've done it before. I can do it. Secondly, his office is next to Stefanski's. While his title is, offensive line coach and something else, he is really like the assistant head coach. And he is the older head coach that Stefanski talks to, relies on. He was on the market less than 24 hours from Dallas when they let him go and they had a coaching change. And the Browns jumped in, and I heard they threw a ton of money at him and to bring him in. So he fills a lot of that role of not just being good on the offensive line, which an offensive line coach is like a pitching coach. Those guys live in their own world. It's a specialized area, and they talk their own language, and you need a coach that can relate to them. But this guy also just brings the wisdom, having been a head coach at Washington, and then also at Oakland and at University of Nebraska. So, and he doesn't want to be a head coach now. See, that's another good thing. You like that guy, that older guy who is helping your younger head coach, not be the guy that the head coach feels, oh, this older guy wants my job. No, he doesn't want that. He just wants to win so he doesn't have to move for a while.
Terry Pluto and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we will talk Baker Mayfield, second year in Kevin Stefanski's system. We will also talk Joe Woods. How big of a year is it for the Browns defensive coordinator? Sports for CLE. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Better days are ahead. Be ready with the training you'll need to get a great job. If you or your family has experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Whether you want to improve your skills, get certified, or train for a new career, go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So what are you waiting for? Register now for online and on-campus summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Thanks for hanging with us on Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon, continuing to talk Browns with Terry Pluto. Kevin Stefanski was asked how much of an advantage is it for Baker Mayfield that he will be in his system for the second year?
I hope it's significantly better. I hope as he starts to listen to the installs with AVP, you're hearing it for not the second time. I mean, he's heard these plays over and over and again, and we've streamlined concepts and we've tried to adjust what we do based on his strengths, our players' strengths. So I would hope he's much more comfortable from that perspective. And that's what time allows you to do, time together.
Let's bring Terry Pluto back in, columnist for cleveland.com, as well as a plain dealer. And Terry, it's stunning that Baker Mayfield, finishing up his fourth year, has not been in the same offensive system for 2 consecutive years.
If you've ever worked in a place, David, where you've had 4 bosses or 4 department heads, 4 sales managers, 4 principals, whatever it is, in 3 years, you have an idea what it was like for him. Because usually when you're changing a boss for a reason, that boss is going to come in and change things because he's going to figure, well, that's why, I'm here. So the fact is it will be easier for Baker this time around. There'll be more expectations. But I just think, too, that Baker has grown. One of the best things that Baker went through was 2019, where the NFL became hard for him. And I think that was the first time where he played football, where it was really hard, where he lost more games than he won. And people were, he always talked in his head how they were questioning him here or there. But no, they were questioning him not because they were projecting forward. They questioned him based on what they saw on the field, which was not very good. Now, there were a variety of reasons. But at the very least, I was talking to another AFC executive. He goes, at the very least, the Browns have a pretty good quarterback now. And they don't have to go looking for one. And, you're in the division with, you have Joe Burrow and you've got, Lamar Jackson. You have an aging Ben Roethlisberger, but your quarterback, as you said, can play right with those guys. It isn't like when he steps on the field and go, we're just totally overmatched quarterback like it used to be.
The other thing, think about just how quickly you have to process information as a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And if it's constantly changing terminology and where you're supposed to look and what you're supposed to do and how, it's almost like driving a new car every year and you have to make decisions based on, a moving blind spot, for lack of a better term.
I'll argue it's even more than that. Suppose it's just they handed you a whole new computer, like it used to be a Mac, and now they're going to put you on Windows, and Windows changed this, and you go, why? Where do I even turn it on? And that's what it is. And then here comes something flashing on the screen, and all these things, and that's. And you just think, my goodness, and they changed the format and the program. Well, it's the same thing for the quarterback. But the bottom line, too, is Baker has the ability to be a good quarterback, because you could have a guy who's really smart, he learns everything. And, the Browns have had some of those kind of guys. Cody Kessler was really smart. He learned everything, but he didn't have a very good arm. Brian Hoyer, squeezed every ounce of his ability, physical ability he had. but he just didn't have the ability of a guy taken in the first round like Baker. Baker's got good arm strength, and he's especially effective throwing off the run. And by the way, we've hit on this theme a couple of times. He's durable. He's never missed a start. He played with a broken rib. He played with a thumb problem, but he's played.
Do you think they look to extend him, or do you think that waits for a year? How do you, if you got a sense of that, do you think the Browns wait? What do they do with Baker Mayfield?
I think they make him some offers just to see where it goes. But if you're Baker's agent, and remember, I wrote about this when Lindor signed with the Mets, and that there's the game within the game. Agents have their career on the line also when they have a big time player, because the other agents are looking at, look, did you get this guy a good deal or not? It had David Meters, Lindor's agent, signed a quote team friendly deal, and that when he went to get other clients, competing agents would use that contract against him. So therefore, if you're Baker Mayfield's agent, you got to really come in there and get what the market will bear. But if you're the Browns, say, well, maybe we can get him for a little less. So I think that's where they're going to be, trying to get him for less. But you got the agent game going, and you have the salary cap increasing. So to me, it'd be a surprise if Baker does sign an extension right now. I'd love to see it happen, like it did with Myles Garrett a year ago. But I don't know.
You also wrote something fairly recently about this year and how important it is for Joe Woods. Kind of take us through that, and it seems like they're trying to give him everything he needs to play his system of defense.
Yes, and a fan wrote in, do you think he's on the hot seat? I mean, Woods does have a relationship with Stefanski going back to Minnesota, so that helps, because often in the past, these coordinators are slapped together with the head coach. They're more brown shotgun marriages. They lead the league in those. So these guys didn't know each other very well or have that much of a rapport. So when things go poorly, the temptation is for one to blame the other or fire the other. In this case, Woods is a guy that Stefanski wanted and a guy he likes. And we talked before that he wants safeties, they're getting safeties. He wants to get faster, they're getting him faster. So he does have a much better car to drive, and to use your analogy before about driving. So we'll see how it goes. Because last year, they almost said, just don't have an embarrassing defense.
Yeah, the
because
upgrade.
They didn't put any money in it.
Yeah, the upgrade is pretty significant. That you could see the 2 years ago it was the offense. This year it's the defense, and I'm guessing Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are going to expect results from that defense.
Right, and pressure's on all these guys, because the nice thing that they had last year was a complete lack of expectation. That was the whole. Everybody got fired again. Freddie Kitchens, all the drama. People just wanted like a normal football team, hoping like this is where I was. No, I picked them 8-8. I was hoping for 9-7. I just wanted to get rid of the drama, get rid of all the inner politics at the front office and coaching level, and the dumb stuff with the players. And if they did that, I thought it'd be a step forward to basically 11-5 in their second year. Well, it's almost like they jumped over the first part. They got that stuff straightened out, and they won 11 games in a playoff game. So, but I don't think it was a fluke or anything. This is not Derek Anderson coming off the practice squad in Baltimore and just having the year of his life. I mean, these are real players who have a chance to be good for quite a while. I mean, my goodness, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, big-time running backs. And, Stefanski showed that he was ready for this job. And you never know until you put these young assistants in there. Are they the right guy?
Terry Pluto and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, talk a little bit more about what people should expect from the Browns this year. We'll also shift our focus to the Indians. Straight ahead, Sports4CLE will be back with Terry Pluto, columnist from cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. A lot has been made about the Browns and their roster upgrade and a lot of expectations. Kevin Stefanski addressed how he will talk to the players about this year's expectations for the Browns.
It's something I talked to the players about, Jeff, and some of those aspirations that you've heard them talk about. You know, it's very, very easy to talk about that. It's very easy for me to say that we want to do this and we're going to be this, but we're going to focus on the work, and that's what we did last year, and I promise you that's what we'll do this year. We're not going to focus on anything out there that people are talking about, because ultimately we're going to be about the work.
Let's bring back in columnist Terry Pluto. And Terry, I like the way that Kevin Stefanski always seems to frame that. I know most coaches do that, but I think it's important because there are going to be a lot of expectations on the Browns.
And also, he remember Freddie Kitchens. We plan to hoist the Lombardi Trophy, you know, all this stuff. I mean, it's like, oh, please. Stefanski knows it's hard, and he knows that it's going to be a challenge for the team because this is the first time most of these guys have had any success in the NFL. And it's a very unforgiving, cruel place if you're not totally ready to go. And also now in the off season, the teams that are in the Browns division on their schedule have lots of Stefanski film and everything to look at how these guys are and to try to work them over some. So it's going to be more of a challenge. But they're business, you know, they're business-like, and they have, you know, experience. When you look at whether it's Prefer as the special teams coach who stepped in and ran the team that day in Pittsburgh when Stefanski was with COVID, and also you have Callahan, as I mentioned before. You know, Joe Woods has been a defensive coordinator before. You know, a lot of the guys on that staff, some are younger, but the kind of main guys are older and have been doing this for a while, and that I think is going to help. But there's always unforeseen things that come up, and that's where you're going to find out how focused they are. But I just don't think they're not going to be doing stupid stuff. We're not seeing a lot of these guys. I hope it stays this way. They're not on, you know, magazine covers and all the junk like they were before the Kitchens year. It's like, if you go back and look at that, how ridiculous that whole hype was.
Yeah, you know, it was very empty as far as delivering on that. Let's shift our attention. Indians fans awfully frustrated. It centers around, you know, the lack of the ability to sign Francisco Lindor, and that's just the latest in guys that this franchise hasn't been able to sign. I certainly understand it. Do you understand fans' frustration?
Sure. I mean, and the payroll's low. The problem with it for the Indians is always the offseason always looks bad for them. I mean, other than the year they signed Evan Encarnacion, generally the offseason is about some expensive players are leaving, and then they're going to try with kids or whatever. But, you know, this isn't a race to who has the highest payroll. It's how many games can you win and how do you play it. And I guess I would argue, let's take a look at who the Indians have let go. Now, Trevor Bauer is the exception. He wasn't going to sign here, but, he continues to play at a high level. I mean, Corey Kluber now has a 6 ERA with the Yankees. Andrew Miller has over a 6 ERA with St. Louis. By the way, I don't think Lindor is going to keep hitting 185, but that's what he's hitting right now. I do think he's going to have some fun in New York to figure that out if that doesn't come around. But for the most part, the players, I'm talking about the Antonetti regime. Everybody likes to go back to, it's kind of like our fans want to blame people for starting the Civil War, or something like that. It's like, I have news for you. Chris Antonetti did not trade Cliff Lee and CeCe Sabathia. By the way, who did bring the Indians Michael Brantley and Carlos Carrasco, who helped them get to the World Series and helped them win a lot of games later on. But he didn't trade those guys. He traded his own Cy Young Award winner, Corey Kluber. He traded him when he knew his arm was about to fall off. That's when he traded him. And I'm not being facetious about that. I mean, this guy he's barely thrown 90 miles an hour now. In the previous 2 seasons, you could tell he was hurt. I will tell you this. By the way, Cody Allen's another one that they let go, and he signed for $11 million with the Angels, and he's out of baseball. It's not to knock these guys. Brian Shaw, they let walk away. He struggled all the time with Colorado. Then he comes back here, and it looks like they might have fixed him. So they're really good on knowing what to do with their pitchers. They trade Clevenger, and he has elbow surgery. I'm just pointing the fact that we talked about smart front offices being a big key in football. Well, it is in baseball, only it's harder because you don't have as big a eraser because there's no salary cap.
Yeah, and this front office has done a very good job of developing pitchers and identifying them. Kind of the head scratcher is, how have they not been able to do that with position players?
That would be interesting to go in their internal meetings, because I'm sure they have looked at what are we doing here? Who are the coaches? Why can't we fix these guys? But the fact is they haven't been able to do that. And, they've gone out. Usually you have to go get a hitter from somewhere else or bring back Carlos Santana like they did a couple of years ago or that kind of thing, because I can't think of the really last good hitter. I guess you would have to say Jose Ramirez, because I was going to say he wasn't drafted, but he was signed by them. But the rest of these guys, when you look at Michael Brantley, now Brantley was another guy they let go. He's continued to play at a high level. I am concerned right now because I don't know where they're going to get hits from. You and I talked about before the show. We're both tired of seeing Jake Bauers. Jake Bauers at 811 major league plate appearances before this year, with a batting average under 220. So it wasn't as if he had a lack of opportunity. He's had it before, and he looks like the same Jake Bauers that we saw a few years ago. So they want to. Actually, if they don't want to go to Bradley right now, you want to play Chang at first base for a while. He's your guy. See what he's got.
Yeah,
but I've seen enough of Bauers.
Yeah, there's some intriguing options, and again, you need to find a guy that can play center and hit regularly, and you need to find a first baseman. And right now, leading hitters hitting 250, and it's Josh Naylor and Jordan Luplow are your leading hitters hitting 250.
Is that right?
Yeah, nobody's hitting over 250. Before I let you go.
By the way, the mean, I just heard this morning, the average batting average in the big leagues right now is 233.
Wow. That's because everybody's paying for home runs.
You better believe it. Launch angles. How's your launch angle? You just bring it up, and nobody cares. You watch a game, it's like a little league game. 10, 12 guys strike out for, on each team. You got 27 outs and say an average 10 of them are strikeouts. Maybe that's we don't need to have anybody play center field. Nobody hits a fair ball, or they hit it over the wall.
Last thing I'll mention before I let you go. There has not been a big contract that has been awarded that has worked out for a team. You look at Pujols, you look at Trout. Those are the Angels. They haven't gone to the playoffs. Machado with the Padres haven't gone to the playoffs. Somebody will say Mookie Betts, but the Angels have 4 contracts, including Mookie Betts, that are over $20 million. The Dodgers, rather. Yeah. So it just doesn't work out when you put 30 25, 30, 34, 40 million dollars into a position player, it just doesn't ever seem to work out.
Not one, especially they go 10, 12, 14 years. You could say in the short term, like the Tigers gave a bunch of money to Cabrera and Verlander, and that did help them get to the World Series. I think it was in 2013. By the way, I believe since they've been to the World Series, and it's either 12 or 13, they've not had a winning record since the Tigers, because you get stuck with these guys.
Yep.
And that's the thing. If Major League Baseball could just do one thing, and that is come to a NBA-like maximum contract, most of them being 4 years or no more than 5, while they're very expensive, at least you're not paying for the great-great-grandchildren to go to college.
You know what? I agree 100%.
I mean, if the Indians had a chance, for example, to sign Lindor for 4 years and say a year or two ago, and say at $30 million a year, 120 or 140 million, they might have done it.
Yep.
They really might have.
And if you're not going to have the distribution of revenue with local TV, you have to have max that you can sign of those guys. So make it 2 or 3 guys, and that's it. Terry,
did you notice Francisco Lindor signed for $341 million, not $340?
Right.
You know why?
Because Tatis had signed for $340.
Got it.
$1 million more than the next highest contract.
So when his agent goes out and says, I got the 3rd highest contract behind Mookie Betts and Mike Trout.
Yeah. Terry Pluto, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for your time, Terry. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
All right. Terry Pluto, columnist from cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside. We will continue talking Indians. Mandy Bell, Indians beat reporter from MLB.com, will join us. Straight ahead, Sports4CLE. We're talking Indians pitching when we return.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Better days are ahead. Be ready with the training you'll need to get a great job. If you or your family has experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Whether you want to improve your skills, get certified, or train for a new career, go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So what are you waiting for? Register now for online and on-campus summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Indians baseball. Indians getting set to open up a 9-game homestand. A couple games against the White Sox. They'll get it going in a little over an hour and 20 minutes over at Progressive Field as they will take on the White Sox. Tribe just a game out of the American League Central's first place as they begin play tonight. Bullpen has been outstanding. Emmanuel Clase regularly hits 100 with his fastball, and he has a nasty slider and cutter. Emmanuel Clase has all the makings of a dominant closer.
He's a strike thrower with a power-type fastball like that. So it's special and it's fun to watch. It is natural, and he's toyed around with cutting it intentionally. But I think we have seen his slider, improve. The execution of it has been good. He's still working on elevating that fastball. So I think as those two things continue to improve and come into play, you're going to see a guy that's already difficult for hitters to deal with, but I think it's going to become even more difficult.
Do you know how much you can use him yet, Carl, or is that kind of you're learning too?
We are learning too, but I think at one point to this, early in the season here, we went 4 out of 6 with him. We gave him a day off there in Chicago one day, but he's been resilient. To this point, he showed up ready to pitch, each and every day. But it's our responsibility. Number one for him, but for the club as well to keep him, fresh and not overuse him or anyone for that matter.
Carl Willis, the pitching coach for the Indians. Let's welcome in Mandy Bell, Indians beat reporter for Indians.com as well as MLB. Mandy, how about that bullpen? It's young. There's some veterans in there, but the back end of it is young and talented.
It's extremely young and talented. And I think that you mentioned a few of the veteran arms that are back there. I think Oliver Perez and Brian Shaw are great people to have back there for just some guidance to this young bullpen. And I think that you have that lineup of Nick Wickren, James Karinchak, and Emmanuel Clase for the final 3 that you're going to have to face in any game where the Indians have a lead. I think that's as solid of a trio as you're going to find. I know it's not the most well-known relievers, and it's obviously not the most experienced relievers, but as Carl was just saying there in that clip, the more experience that they get, I think all of them are going to continue to keep getting better. And the taste that we've gotten so far of Emmanuel Clase has been so fun and just so impressive that I think imagining him getting even better is going to be fun.
Yeah, and Carl alluded to it. If he gets that high fastball, the one that kind of rises into batters' eyes, it looks really good. Good luck getting on top of it. That will make him darn near unhittable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone's hitting him at this point, and if he can continue to make those pitches even sharper than what they are and command everything even better. I mean, he already throws a tremendous number of strikes, but just thinking of him getting better, that's just completely lethal. It's so fun. And you just haven't seen Indians pitchers who can throw with this kind of velocity and so long. The pitch tracking era started in 2008. And within, I think it was his first 3 appearances, he already had more triple-digit pitches than all Indians pitchers combined since 2008. So he's been a lot of fun to watch.
That young pitching rotation has been fun as well. All of them 26 or younger and really talented. I know there's been a couple of hiccups, but you're going to have those. When you look at this pitching staff as a whole, it's young, it should get better, and it's pretty good right now.
I mean, it's excellent right now. And I think it's still going to be one of the best in the league, even if you don't have somebody like Carlos Carrasco in it. And it's so fun to watch these guys because we all know the offensive struggles that they've had over the last few years and they've started the season with again this year. But as long as you have that rotation, you're never going to be out of contention. And Tito has said that so many different times already, that as long as you have that rotation and somebody like Shane Bieber anchoring that rotation, you're going to be in pretty good hands. And I think that the rest of the rotation, the rest of the guys in that starting mix have a great role model in Bieber. I know he's only 25, but he's an excellent role model for any pitcher out there. And to be able to compete against or like alongside him every day, I think that just drives that competition up more with this young rotation.
Yeah, without question. Shane Bieber has been historically good to start a season. Bieber's the first pitcher in big league history to strike out at least 10 in 4 straight games to start a season since the mound was moved back to 60 feet 6 inches in 1893. Now, as I mentioned, Indians are opening up a 9-game homestand against the White Sox. They went 3-4 on the road trip. Take a listen to Shane Bieber. The ace is really happy with what he saw from his guys from a mental standpoint.
We've been challenged. We've been, just on this road trip alone, we've been punched in the mouth a little bit, but I feel like we've responded well every single time. And that's what you want to see out of a club like this. And I think that points to a lot of good things in the future, in the near future. And so happy with how we've bounced back, responded, and it was a tough fought road trip, and we're going to continue that momentum, especially from today. We're going to enjoy the off day tomorrow and continue that momentum going into the next series at home.
Yeah, I tend to agree with him. You see the makeup with a young team. You see the mental makeup that you want to see. Again, Indians just came out of first place when they start play tonight.
And I think that you think about that and everything that they went through. Not many teams have to suffer through a no-hitter, a triple play being turned against them, losing a game on a ninth-inning error that could have been the ground out that ended the game. They had 2 outs. I mean, they really, like Bieber said, got punched in the mouth a few times. And to be able to continually come right back from each of those, I think for any team is a great accomplishment. But for an inexperienced young roster like this that shows a lot. And that was sort of what Bieber was alluding to whenever he was saying that. I think that really speaks highly of this team, even though that they are so young and so inexperienced. I really do think that at least helps their mindset moving forward.
Mandy Bell and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. We will flip things and talk offense. Indians offense straight ahead when Sports4CLE continues. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking Indians baseball with Indians beat reporter from Indians.com and MLB.com, Mandy Bell. Mandy, the offense, it's been a struggle without question. And, when you look at it with Jose Ramirez not hitting real well and Cesar Hernandez not hitting real well and Eddie Rosario, all them hitting below 250, somehow Indians still a game over 500. Those 3 guys have a track record of being really good major league hitters.
And I think that the fact that they're still in a good spot within the division just speaks so highly of this pitching staff. I think it just tells everybody that this pitching staff is going to keep them in it no matter what struggles they're going to be going through offensively. And I think we've seen this year, last year, and maybe even the year before that the offense can get a little bit streaky and then can run into its problems. But I think that along those lines, just because those guys have such a track record of being such great hitters, I think there's going to be points where they catch fire. It's just whether or not they can get everybody catching fire simultaneously. You have those sparks that will probably come down to Jose Ramirez and Franmil Reyes, because when those 2 guys are going, it seems like the rest of the offense just becomes so contagious. It seems like those 2 are the main sparks of this lineup. And when they're going, everyone follows suit, but it's just difficult to make sure that those guys are actually going and to have so much pressure on those 2 types of bats to try to keep everybody else in the flow of it.
Do you think we'll see more of Amed Rosario in center field? That's a guy, I know he's not hitting now, but again, he's a guy that previously has hit 250, 260 in the big leagues with the Mets. I know he's learning a new position in center field. I think, people complain a little bit about the defense. You have to find a way to get some bats into this lineup, I think.
Yeah, and I do think that we're going to see him in center field a little bit more. I think they're going to try to continue to give him those opportunities whenever you can get his bat in the lineup. And especially if you do want his bat to be an impact bat, you got to get him at least enough reps that he's in there as often as possible, because it's really difficult to get that going whenever you're playing only 1 or 2 times a week. So I do think they're going to try to find ways to sneak him into the lineup as much as they can. But on the flip side, that's coming in at center field, where Jordan Lupo's really putting together a good case as to why he should be getting more at bats against right-handed pitching. It was easy whenever it was like, okay, he just crushes lefties. We know that, and we're going to get him in there against every lefty possible. But now that he's starting to show that he can hit righties as well, he might be warranted to get a few more games and a few more at-bats against right-handers as well. So I think that that's going to be a balance that the Indians are going to have to figure out over the next few weeks.
And you know, that's a competition thing. He wants the at-bats against righties because he wants to prove he can hit righties and be a everyday player, not a platoon player. So those are good things. Those are the things you want a player to want to do.
Absolutely. And I think that that's something that he's been wanting to prove since he came over here in 2019, just before that season started. And he said that over and over and over again. I can be more than a platoon guy. It's just his numbers never really backed it up. And now we saw it. I guess it should be 3 homers against a righty now, but we had that one that was ruled a double. That was that controversial replay over in left field. That was a little bit close, but ended up going for a double. But I mean, to already start to see in the past week him turning it up a little bit more against righties, I think that's only a good sign for the Indians.
Who do you think are some of the keys to make this offense go? If you could say, if we get a couple of these guys going, this offense should be pretty good. And you know, the pitching has been phenomenal. There's going to be hiccups, but this pitching is going to keep you in things.
It is, and I really think that, as unfortunate as it seems, it's going to come down to Jose Ramirez as much as possible. I mean, I think he's just the heartbeat of this lineup, and it's tough whenever that falls squarely on a single guy. Obviously, anyone can step up and do it, but it always just seems when he's leading this offense, when he's going well, the team just follows right behind him. And we saw that last year when he basically single-handedly carried the Indians into the postseason when they started scuffling at the end of the year, and he just had a red-hot September. That was fun to watch, but you can see how much of an impact he can make on this lineup whenever he's going right. And I think that he's going to be the biggest key. And I also think that we saw just maybe a little glimpse into how Franmil Reyes can do the same thing. Jose Ramirez started to cool off a little bit against the Tigers whenever they were here in Cleveland. And whenever Ramirez's bat was cooling down, Reyes continued to stay hot and the offense was still producing. So I think that those two guys, as long as one of them is at least going, the offense should still be in pretty good shape.
Mandy Bell, Indians beat reporter for Indians.com as well as MLB.com. Thanks so much for the time, Mandy. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, Mandy Bell from Indians.com as well as MLB.com. Indians getting ready to open up that 9-game homestand and looking for a little bit of payback. Carlos Rodon, who no-hit him last time out, gets the start tonight against Zach Plesac over at Progressive Field. That'll do it for us here on Sports4CLE. Tomorrow, scheduled guests, Ellis Williams, Browns beat reporter from cleveland.com. We will also check in with Ryan Mitchell, voice of the Clippers. We'll see they're getting ready for some exhibition games. They've had some inter-squad games. We'll hear from Ryan Mitchell about who some of the guys that are opening eyes at the AAA level of the Indians organization are. Again, that's tomorrow, Sports4CLE right here at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. We will see you again tomorrow.